I'd first like to thank the President and Administration and the Board of Trustees for giving me this opportunity to speak tonight. I'd like to welcome the staff, Peace College, parents, friends, and honored guests whose support is so invaluable to our work here and the success of these students before me. I'm especially honored to acknowledge the professional and educational excellence represented by the Peace College faculty, whose high standards and friendship inspire me daily. Finally, I congratulate the students here before me, whose achievements we honor today and whose commencement we celebrate. I'll lean a lot. Back in the 1970s, the comedian Bill Cosby used to have a bit about how parents had lost their mind. His evidence for this was the fact that parents routinely ask their children, "What are you doing?" When, of course, children will simply answer, "I don't know," ensuring that they've won that argument until the parents then ask the same question again the next day. "What are you doing?" "I don't know." And Cosby decided parents had lost their mind. As a teacher of undergraduate students here at Peace College, I have some sympathy for Cosby's commentary, because I find myself often in a similar situation. That is, I spend a great deal of time not knowing what you are doing, and foolishly asking. I turn the corner, and there you are in the hallway, doing plank exercises on the floor first thing in the morning. "What are you doing?" I ask. I come into the classroom and find you laying out a 5-course spread on a desk. And I ask, "What are you doing?" And yes, I'm not ashamed to admit I have spent many a night looking at your papers and asking aloud as if you were there, "What are you doing?" To ask someone what they are doing always implies, I think, a little bit of judgment. When we were little, we asked bigger kids, "What you doing?" Which really meant, "Why are you leaving me out?" Or, "What will you give me not to tell the grown-ups?" As adults, to ask someone what they are doing usually implies that we think they might be doing something that someone should know about. But I like asking people what they're doing, because an appropriate answer to that question always involves verbs. Now, I like verbs. As some of you know, I like verbs a lot. I would even venture to guess that verbs like me. And I don't just mean I like them from a grammatical point of view. That would be weird. I like verbs from a philosophical, human point of view. You see, lurking below the many hours of lessons that I have given on the importance of verbs is something else I think about verbs that I think about you, but it never quite seems appropriate in the classroom to bring it up, so I'll go for it here. Thus, I will now give you my untaught lesson about verbs. Verbs allow us to answer that question, "What are you doing?" and they encourage us to answer with something that is worth doing. On this occasion, of course, the important question is not, "What are you doing?" but, "What will you be doing?" The lucky among you already have an answer to this question, at least on a superficial level. You have answers to the question, "What will you be doing instead of being at Peace next year?" And some of you have triumphant answers, such as, "I will be working in the meaningful career toward which I have expended all of these efforts lo these many years." And, "I will be going to graduate school so that I may eventually get that meaningful career that that other person just said they were going to do right now. I'm going to do that." Some of you are more philosophical, no less triumphantly explaining, "I shall do absolutely nothing, and I deserve it." And some of you are more honestly sedate. I'm going to be taking some time to kind of figure out, what I should do for a while. I'll read a book for you. It's cool. I honor all of these responses equally. But you also know, I think, that in the moments when we stop laughing at one another, that is not entirely what I mean. You will all do those things because that is what people do. But we also know that there are more personal ways of doing, ways of answering the question, what are you doing, that are really, perhaps sometimes uncomfortably, answers to the question, who are you being? So, I'll ask you tonight, while we're all in this moment of transition, what are you doing? What will you be doing? What kind of verbs do you have for this one last day? For those of you who are sick of that question. I think most of us start to answer the question by furtively looking around to see what other people are doing. We don't want to be doing something weird. I've already mentioned the safe choices, getting a job, going to school again, waiting to see what shakes out. The adults who have brought you this far will accept any of those, and combinations of them, so feel free to use those. But you have more to say than that. You can come up with things that are harder to explain, things that you must explain, things that only you can explain. I know you are better than that because I know many of you. I've seen you wrestle with things, ideas, verbs. I've heard my distinguished colleagues here talk about you with pride and very often with humility. We all know you. And we know that, in our estimation, you have already done and been many more things that you might have words for yet. I'm not talking about schoolwork. Almost anyone can learn to do that eventually. I'm talking about matters of the spirit, questions about ourselves that we confront first thing in the morning, before the schoolwork and the tests, before the Red Bull. I'm talking about the questions of the soul that we all confront in our own secret ways, the young and the old, the confident and the struggling, those bored with complacency, and those confronting and creating change in their lives. To answer these questions, to choose the best possible verbs, we need role models. One historical element of the American college story is leaving your college and looking back wistfully for symbols to help you remember what you learned and what you thought. Now, one advantage of attending a small college like Peace is that there are not that many symbols to choose from. We have a handful of buildings, this grove of magnificent trees that amazingly survived the storms, and the ground on which we stand tonight. In particular, though, all of us have this beautiful building behind you, the centerpiece of the lives we have shared in these past however many years. It might not be the Duke Chapel, or the Old Well at Carolina, or the Great Hall at Hogwarts. But, for the moment, until they're done building that thing over there across the street, it is the most visible symbol of your time here. Unless you're interested in donuts. Then the symbol is, of course, the Krispy Kreme. That's fine. Whatever. Maine is important to my thing about